This presentation aims to define the relation between vernacular architecture and the new technologies for affordable housing. To start, we have to define vernacular architecture. Briefly, vernacular architecture is a terminology used as referring to all labor skills used to build residential shelters through the use of local materials obtained from the environment. In another term, as referring to these skills, vernacular architecture is a combination between what we call passive design and the local materials used. But the question remains the following: is vernacular architecture the old way of sustainable design, or it was just an architecture for the poor? Here are some examples for vernacular architecture projects. The New Paris village and the New Guruna village, both located in Egypt, for architect Hassan Fathi, where he used passive design, the courtyard effect, the projects were climatically responsive, and the use of mud brick. Another example was the Tulu houses, China, where no irons were used, the use of bamboo nails, and the walls were made with local soil and egg white. Passive design lies on vernacular techniques, condensed as well in the most used elements, which are wind catchers, solar chimney, and the trombone. Each element has a different mode of action while responding to the climate, but they're all categorized in the air temperature regulation. Why did these techniques disappear in all new affordable housing projects? We all know that the use of vernacular techniques has been decreasing over time until it totally disappeared. And the question is, why? Most probably because of the ongoing process towards modern housing, advanced housing technologies, and sustainable development. Affordable housing is somehow saving money, but the problem remains by the permanent use of the same energy amount, which increases the energy consumption over time. The controversy lies on trying to adapt both techniques together, which means adding the vernacular techniques, new technologies for affordable housing, or in another term, using passive design and low-cost construction techniques for affordable climate-responsive housing. What are the new technologies in affordable housing? The main technologies in affordable housing are the modular construction, home sharing, and precast fast construction. What do they usually do? One of the most known technologies is the RMD, which is the Rapid Monolithic Disaster Proof Technology. It's a construction process in which all elements are cast together, using aluminum frame to support walls. It's a cycle time optimization, disaster proof, using a low-cost concrete construction. Let's not forget that it's durable and a natural disaster resistance. This technique was used in India to build affordable houses just in 7 days after a natural disaster occurred in the region. Here goes the combination. By the addition of a wind catcher, each wind catcher is added to the unit within the same technologies, which means that this catcher should also be fabricated through RMD as the same strategy as the walls by aluminum frameworks. Also, it is set according to the wind direction taken into consideration. How is it useful? The wind enters the space through the exhaust with a high pressure and circulates in the room in order to get rid of hot air. There's also an opportunity that each unit could have a basement. In that case, it is cooled through the water by convection and evaporation. Another combination lies on adding the solar chimney, also prefabricated on its shape using the RMD technology. How does it work? First, cool air drawn into the house through windows and vents. It is drawn to the bottom of the solar chimney, ventilating the house. Sunlight heats up the cool air in the chimney, causing it rise. Hot air rises out to the chimney, drawing in more cool air. Also, the trombone could be used on one of the most exposing elevations to the sun, south elevation, to collect heat through the glass layer. The heat gained from the sun warms up the cool air leaving the space through the lower vents to recapture it as hot air which enter the space through upper vents on a high pressure. Let's not forget that the masonry wall is essential and could be used from the surrounding environment. Otherwise, a massive concrete wall with RMD should be implanted. So, the climatic control relies on the use of three main elements in affordable housing: the trombone, solar chimney, or the wind catcher. These three elements associated together lies on a temperature control. It is mainly for regulating the temperature, natural ventilation, and a less energy use, or in another term, less use of mechanical ventilation. Another way of a climatic control is the addition of a rainwater collector. How rainwater is collected? First, an inclination of the roof is a must, so all rainwater can be drowned into the drain. All rainwater is collected in a tank underground. This way, the user could use reserved water instead of consuming it from any other affording resources. It is mainly for water collection, less water use, and of course, the efficiency to save water on the long term. So, briefly, vernacular techniques and new technologies relies on the use of a passive design by adding the vernacular elements mentioned before, and the use of a low-cost construction, such as the RMD technology. By this combination, the user will not only afford the house, but also using natural resources for the house efficiency instead of paying for energy consumption. Thank you so much for taking time to see this video, hoping that it was useful and interesting.